friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I had a question come in that was rather interesting, and actually the first time anyone's ever asked me this in all these years, and that is, if I could only make one vinegar, which one would it be? And the easy answer to that is, it would all depend on what's available to me at the time. Because here's the thing that's great about vinegar. You can make it out of whatever you want. I just shot a video on thinking outside the box. Well, that's one of those things. A lot of people think, they get apple cider vinegar in their head as if that's the only kind of vinegar there is out there, that or white vinegar. But you can make vinegar out of anything. And some people seem to think that apple cider vinegar is the only one that has health benefits. Well, that's totally untrue. If you're making your own homemade vinegar out of good, organic, healthy herbs, vegetables, fruits, it's going to have the same amount of benefits. It's still going to be vinegar. So as far as vinegar goes, it's still going to have those benefits, but it may have more or less of other things depending on what you made it out of. So me, it's about whatever's on hand that I need to use up anyway, be it a lot of stuff coming in from the garden, and I've already got a bunch put up, such as herbs. I dehydrate tons and tons of herbs every year, but maybe I still got a lot growing. Well, I can just hack those down fresh and make some vinegar out of that. Or if it's a good year on apples and I've made all the juice I want to make and I've made all the applesauce, when I press out the apples for juice like I did a couple of years ago, I use the pulp to then make vinegar out of those. So I had a lot of apple vinegar. In fact, I still have some, and that is right here. And it's still just as tart and good as the day I put it up. And it's about 2 years old now because this last year we didn't get any apples. It was the first year we've never had any apples, and that it was because of a late freeze. Our whole area had hardly anyone had fruit on any of their fruit trees. Thankfully, I still have a lot of applesauce and apple butter and apple vinegar from that year. And so really out of all that, I don't have a favorite vinegar. I do have ones I prefer for some things over others, but that doesn't mean they can't be used in all different ways. For example, when I'm making a vinegar like this one I just got started a few days ago for washing my hair with, I use it as a wash and conditioner. So some days I will actually use like Dr. Jacobs soap. Sometimes I have my own homemade shampoo for my own homemade soap. But mostly I use vinegar. It washes and conditions my hair. And so when I'm making vinegar for that, I focus on herbs that I'm growing that I know are naturally good for hair and hair growth. And so in here I've got rosemary, thyme, and nasturtium flowers. But I've made vinegar for my hair from roses and lavender and so much more. Those are the ones I typically like to use for my hair. But let's say I used up all the vinegar I had made for my hair, then I'll use whatever other vinegars on hand, be it apple or apple mango like I have here, banana peel and mint. This is just banana peels, we eat through the bananas, get some vinegar going, and throw some mojito mint in there. It gives it actually a nice lemon flavor for some weird reason. And I don't even know what's in this one. I think it's a blend of whatever. And I've made vinegars out of many things. Now, I also make vinegars with whatever's on hand that I think might be good, more specifically for cleaning vinegars, even though I could still use them in making salad dressings and cooking and baking and washing my hair with. And that'd be something like a juniper vinegar or a cedar vinegar. We don't have the cedar tree anymore. We took it out a couple of years back, but I've made vinegar out of the cedar from that tree. And I've made it out of peppermint. And I also make vinegar specifically for my chickens using fresh oregano and garlic greens from the garden. And I put that in the chickens' water because it's really good for them. But it's a wonderful smelling vinegar that one of these days I'm going to make a bunch of so I can have some just for making salad dressing out of, because it would be perfect used in salad dressing. So one of these days I am going to do that. But for now, I'm just mostly using it for my chickens' water to help keep them virus free. And they've been very, very healthy, by the way. I've made vinegar out of so many different things, I won't even remember it all. But a few more examples would be, on those rare occasions I get mangoes, I use the peel and the pits to make mango vinegar. And I know there's always going to be those people that will come in and say, I heard mango peels were toxic. No, they're not. If you're allergic to mangoes, it can burn your mouth if you're allergic. That's only if you're allergic. In fact, people who live in areas where they have mango trees and they grow prolifically there, they eat the peel and the fruit. So no, they're not toxic. I've made mango vinegar many times. In fact, like I said, right here, this is actually a blend of, I think I just had a couple of mangoes. And so I needed more in there. So I had some like apple peels. I threw some apple peels and mango peels in the same batch when I did that one. I've made other types of herb vinegars using dandelion flowers and pansies. I've also used rhubarb, both fresh and dried, to make vinegar. Because you can do vinegar out of dried goods, which is what's going on here. If you were watching the Fermented February collaboration put on by Fermented Homestead, then this was one of the things I did in my video for that collaboration. So this was made just to show people you can do ferments of any kind using dried goods. So this is dried thyme, dried rosemary, and dried nasturtium. I prefer using fresh because it just looks nicer, as you can see in this image here, but dried works great too. So if I run out of any of my vinegar that I made during the summer when all this stuff was coming in fresh, I can just pull the dried stuff out and get another batch going. I've made cleaning vinegar also out of citrus peels. That's a good one. Even for a cleaning vinegar, organic is best, because I found that some of the peels I used from non-organic citrus, just for a cleaning vinegar, not for a food vinegar, sometimes those didn't ferment well. And I think it's just because of whatever was used on the fruit. So I just don't even get non-organic citrus at all anymore. I only use organic. As far as flavor, one of my favorites for using in foods, like adding to breads and sauteing with, has been raisin vinegar. I don't make that one very much because, well, raisins aren't cheap and I want to save them for other things. So for fun and for the flavor, yes, a good raisin vinegar is wonderful, but I'm always going to fall back on the things that I can get for free, such as fruit scraps, like if I'm peeling a bunch of apples for something, I'll use the apple peels to make vinegar. Peach is another really good one, and the funny thing about peach vinegar is you can get the biggest scobies on your peach vinegars, but I'll do that when I'm canning peaches. Let's say I'll go get a bunch of peaches and I want to peel them to can with them or whatever, then I'll use those peels and the pits to make vinegar with, and it makes a great vinegar. And yes, you can use the pits. They're not going to kill you. Now, people have been taught too much to be afraid of things they shouldn't be afraid of. If you sat around and ate bowls full of peach kernels and apricot kernels, yes, you would have a problem. But it's not going to hurt you one bit to have vinegar made from that, or even to eat a kernel now and then. If I'm working with or eating peaches or nectarines and it just so happens that the pit pops open and the kernel on the inside is not rotten, I'll eat it. I just eat it right down. It tastes like almonds and it's really good for you. It's about moderation, just like with anything else. Pineapple peels, that's another one. You get a pineapple, you peel all that outside stuff, the rind off, you don't know what to do with it, throw it in a jar and make vinegar out of. Now, the thing I don't like about pineapple vinegar is that sometimes the flavor can turn out really, really good. And other times it's something about the rind. Even if you're using organic pineapple, which I recommend, it takes on a very odd flavor sometimes, and it's a flavor I don't usually like when it does that. It's just kind of I never know what it's going to do. Sometimes it turns out great and sometimes it doesn't. It still turns out to be vinegar. Well, in that case, that vinegar can be used, if the flavor isn't great for using in anything you're going to eat, then use it as a cleaning vinegar. You can use it in your laundry, you can use it in your dishwasher, or even if you're washing dishes by hand. I'd use it for a hair wash vinegar, since it still smells great. It just tastes weird. But this last time I did it and it turned out not tasting so good, I used it as a vinegar to add to my chicken's water. I'll do that too. So any kind of vinegar is good for the chickens. I just like to do the oregano and garlic in particular because of its high antiviral properties. And I've also used fresh blueberries to make vinegar. I just did it, I think, one time, but because the blueberries, to me, when I'm growing blueberries, those are precious. I think I only did that one time just to show people, here's another option. You can make blueberry vinegar. So that's not something I normally do. I've done blackberry vinegar too, which is another good one, but it turns out so dark and it can easily stain a lot of stuff. So I only did that, I think, one time. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful color, but I won't do that again. And I certainly refrain from using things that I find a little more precious and I want to save them for making desserts and other things, and then use whatever's cheapest or free to make the vinegar with. I mean, yes, you can use, though I've never made a tomato vinegar, yes, you can make tomato vinegar. You can make cucumber vinegar. You can make whatever you want. That's the thing. Just be creative. Think outside the box. If you've got a lot of produce, you just got to know, especially if you're not using a fruit, you're using an herb or a vegetable, you're going to definitely need to add sugar. At least to a half-gallon jar, you're going to have a half cup of sugar. If you're using fruit scraps, then usually a quarter cup to a third cup of sugar is enough. If you're using straight juice, like if you're truly making apple cider vinegar and you're not using scraps, you're just using juice, most likely you won't need to add any sugar to it. Just know that the more sugar you add, the more acidic your vinegar is going to be, but too much sugar can kill it or prevent it from fermenting at all. So even though your measurements don't have to be exact, you still got to have a certain amount of balance there. So I will link you back to my most recent vinegar making video, which is a couple of years old now, where we had apples coming out our ears, and it was the only time that I made vinegar out of whole apples, just chunked them up and put them in there. And yes, you can do that. It will add a lot more pulp to your vinegar when you do it that way than just using the peels. So when that happens, if you get a lot of pulp in your vinegar, just strain it out through a cloth. It's simple. Anyway, if you want more details on making vinegar, you can check out that video. Plus, I have a great many more vinegar making videos, and I'll link to that full playlist down below. And remember, you can blend whatever you want. It doesn't have to be any specific blend I've made. You can do it however you want to. Think outside the box, and please share with us down below, what are some of the interesting vinegar blends you have made, whether it be a single thing or you've mixed it with other types of herbs, fruits, and so on. Share with us down below so people can get more ideas from you as well. And thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.